We're going to talk a little bit about Studio Upgrade. This is Ryan Grahams, the founder of Studio Upgrade.
Yeah, right here.
Over there.
Exactly.
So I'm going to say, you've got an area over there. Tell me what's going on, and then we're just going to talk gear.
Absolutely. Basically, my office is in St. Paul, Minnesota, and I've got the ultimate demo studio there where I'm hopping on Zoom all the time with my clients, showing them how to set up their own setup and showing them what's possible. More or less, we ripped the whole thing out of my office in St. Paul and packed it into like 10 Pelican cases and got as much of it set up here as we could to do that same kind of experience. This is my first time exhibiting anywhere. So everything's been remote. And so now we brought it somewhere and successfully hooked it up. And so, yeah, everybody can get their hands on it. I'd love to show you guys the ropes, with what we've got. Basically, there's 5 cameras over there. We have a little podcast demo as well as a desk studio demo, so you can see what it's like to have a studio that lives on a desk aimed at, content creators, presenters, authors, coaches, that type of person that doesn't have a necessarily technical background.
Well, and I will say, if anybody wants to do a podcast here or wants to make a video or do something else, you can go over there and you can actually do it right here.
Yeah.
Well, I get asked this question a lot, and I've learned from other people. I want to build a studio at home. I want to set it up so I can make good videos quickly. I don't have to tear it down and build it back up again. This is something that you do. So
exactly.
At the very beginning, let's say you're just starting out building a studio to do video, either it's short form or long form.
Mm-hmm.
What do you need? What do you recommend?
Well, it's been really funny the last couple of years, and you're at the right show, of course, to learn about this. One, there's so many companies, but Blackmagic, Sony, Canon, they've all been making some big changes and releasing some incredible products that have made it a lot easier to get started with something like this. So a great example, if you're just getting started, the Sony ZV-E10 is a mirrorless camera that they have that's under $1,000 that has the ability to use it as a webcam, or you can use it to record. It's a perfect example of a flexible, the changes they've made to these tools that let you use them for things like Zoom calls or YouTube live streams, that sort of thing.
Why wouldn't I just use, I'm going to pull out, I got this for using my Android, but
oh boy,
my Pixel 8 Pro, why wouldn't I just use this?
Well, as we all know, it's been really incredible to see what's been happening with smartphones, and like Blackmagic camera app for iPhone is a good example.
Yeah.
You can actually load a LUT onto your phone and shoot and log. Like there's some really powerful stuff that makes these cameras even better. But still, I find a good mirrorless camera with a large sensor, APS-C or full frame is going to really give you much more of a truly a professional look. You know what I mean?
All right. So that's your camera. What about lights? I see your lights over there.
Yeah.
Some good lights. What's a good little lighting rig that you could put up and get going right away?
So, there's a lot of pieces of gear that I have from Elgato over there. And
Elgato, yep.
A lot of people know them as like a Twitch streaming, kind of gaming service, but they've got some lights. The one in particular I really like is called the Key Light. I don't have it here at the show, but I should have brought it. It's at my studio, but it's it's about that size of the one I have on the desk. It's an 18-inch light. And I like that because it's not only very bright, but it's softer being close to you. You don't want like a little 2-inch light. It's just going to be a really harsh light. Even though it's bright, you're going to see every little wrinkle, so having a large source makes a big difference.
Oh, I should get that.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Okay, so those are lights. I actually have a Luma light in my studio that's a little bit bigger, but it's not that big.
Yeah, the bigger the better. It really is.
The bigger the better when it comes to lights, and you can get them for relatively inexpensive.
They're under a couple $100, I believe, for the Key Light. They're pretty awesome.
All right, so we were talking microphones earlier today with Chris, but tell me about microphone. You want to get started. What do you do for a mic? What's a good beginner microphone setup?
Great question. And honestly, microphone, I think whenever anybody asks if there's one piece of gear I'm going to get, what do I get? I tell everybody, any microphone is going to be better than the microphone that's built into your laptop. So specifically, the basic USB mic that's super affordable that I really like is from a company called Razer. The Razer Siren Mini. It's like
Razer, like the guy R-A-Z-E-R.
Yeah.
They make game.
It's another game.
They make
stuff.
game.
What I like about this mic is there are no buttons, no dials, nothing. It's fully auto. And so for those who are looking just for a really simple and affordable solution, I think it's $59.99, something like that. It's a great place to start. But of course, depending on your needs, if you want to grow into something, just USB alone might not be enough. You might need analog later. So it really depends on how you want to grow into it.
Right. Now, a lot of people are using these little packs. I have one of them where you've got 2 mics and there's a clip and they're wireless and they can plug in. Do you like those? Like DJI has one?
Yeah, I'm wearing one right now. Yeah, the DJI mics too. I've got a sync-in-law wired into.
So you're wired.
I am wired. Yeah, I'm always wired.
Always wired. Don't say anything you don't want people to know around this guy. Okay, so The DJI stuff,
I love DJI.
And Anchor, I'm using the Anchors. They're
I
pretty.
haven't tried the Anchors, so I've tried a few of them. Honestly, the DJI is my favorite. It's probably one of the more expensive ones, but built-in 32-bit recording, so I can use it just as a recorder, and I can plug it in via USB into my computer, so I can use it in Zoom, or I can, like Max is over there, it's plugged into his camera, right? So he can get analog audio into his Sony setup. It's a very, very versatile, very, very versatile mic.
Yeah, at a show like this, you're probably always being recorded anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
How do you feel about teleprompters?
I love teleprompters. The thing that I don't like about teleprompters is the stigma. We all think, Ron Burgundy, right?
Think about Ron Burgundy every day.
Well, we've got a little sticker on we have a teleprompter over there. There's a sticker that says teleprompters. It's not just for words anymore. We mostly are using teleprompters to put Zoom up on screen, kind of making a mini Interatron, right? If you guys remember that kind of setup where we can have eye contact with whoever we're talking with, right? And still looking at the camera and connecting with those that we're on with Zoom. Or say you've got your PowerPoint presentation, have that right there on your teleprompter so you can have eye contact and read your deck at the same time. It's a pretty powerful tool.
What teleprompters do you like? I know Elgato's got one that friends of mine are raving about.
I have not got my hands on it yet, but I'm dying to. It's a 9-inch teleprompter with one cable that carries video and power. That's the thing. As much as I will tell you and rave about my setup, it's a lot more expensive than Elgato's, but it's a bigger setup, but there's so many wires just to make it happen. The Elgato 1-wire 9-inch, especially I think it's 350 or so. It's a very, very, attractive, teleprompter for sure.
All right. So now think about the background. What's the right sort of background for a low cost home studio?
What I would avoid, I'll start with that, is a green screen. As much as I'll probably get in trouble for saying that around here.
No, you can say it.
I think any sort of virtual background typically, unless really, really done well with beautiful lighting and a perfect keyer, is gonna look like a green screen. You know what I mean? So I typically encourage people to avoid a green screen. But what I do like for screens, if you have an ugly background, there's some pop-up black or white or gray backdrops, and then you throw some LED RGB lights on there, add some color, change it up. That's my favorite simple backdrop. And then otherwise what I tell people is make it you. Keep it simple, right? So for mine, my background in my office, I've got a little Lego Wall-E, and I used to have a bunch of toys, but my team was like, Ryan, pick one toy. And so the Lego Wall-E is perfect because it says filmmaking, one of my favorite movies, right? And Disney and animation. It's Lego. I love to do Lego with my kids. And I built it with my daughter so I can tell this story, a whole bunch of stories with one object, right? So find that thing that defines you, get that in your background, and it's fun, and it looks good in the background.
I clearly have too much stuff in my background.
You'll see. Should have seen my old setup. It was ridiculous.
You'll see the Pokemon for sure.
There we go. Exactly. You know what I'm talking about. Yeah.
Pikachu stands out. Position of strength right there. What about soundproofing, sound trapping, getting the audio right, putting things in the corners? Like, what do you say about that?
Honestly, especially for those just getting started, the most important thing that's going to make the biggest difference from a soundproofing and echo and all that kind of stuff is getting close to your microphone. You got to be right on top of it. And that's why, even though as much as I would like to use, traditionally I'm using shotgun mics and that sort of thing, for this type of setup, more of a podcast style dynamic mic that's right up there, that's going to isolate your voice away from any echo and all that kind of stuff. So that's the number one thing, just getting close to your mic so you don't hear as much room noise. And then anything will help. Just get some panels on the wall, hop on Amazon, find something just to soak up some of that echo, a rug on the floor.
Foam rubber or, styrofoam? Like what kind of panels?
I just say, again, when we're just getting started, whatever's within your budget. You know what I mean? Hop on, type in sound, proofing or whatever. It's not proofing technically, but that's what you'll search for on Amazon because that's what everyone looks for. Buy some hexagons and glue them on the walls.
Cool.
Makes a big difference.
So let's talk about growing.
Yeah.
Like if you want to get started in bio, we talked about a lot of stuff here, but what can you do and buy and how do you think about future proofing? Because we all think we're going to start out and then we're going to be like Mr. Beast. All right. Maybe not that level, but how do you build now so you don't have to throw it all out and replace it as you grow?
It's tough. Obviously in technology, we are seeing new products every year from a lot of manufacturers. So it's really, really tough. What I'd say the important thing to do is invest in, especially if you want a really high quality look, if you can invest in glass, for example. I'm a big fan of Sigma lenses for the quality to price ratio. If you throw a good Sigma lens on a Sony body, you're going to be able to leverage the quality of that picture for a long time.
That Sony you talked about actually has removable lenses.
Yes, the ZV-E10 has an E-mount.
It's an E-mount, right?
Yeah, exactly.
It's not the MFT mount, it's the E-mount.
It's an E-mount, yeah. So you could get a Sigma E-mount lens. I really like the Sigma 18 to 50 f2.8. It's like $600, $500, something like that. And that kind of investment is going to, you could even upgrade your body down the road. You know what I mean?
And keep your lenses.
Keep
Right.
your
All
glass.
that money you put in glass.
Exactly.
Because glass ends up being more expensive.
Yeah, as it should be, because it's going to make the biggest difference.
Okay, so let's move on to mid-range. What do you do on the mid-range side to upgrade? Like, how about if you need a switcher, or what if you need like, you know, additional stuff, or multicams, or live streaming? How do you think about that?
Blackmagic is where it's at. I'm sure a lot of you have heard of the A10 mini line. It is really incredible the kind of power you can get in a very, very affordable box. The A10 Mini Pro, $295. It's got a ton of features, a ton of power.
Switcher, right?
And it's got 4 HDMI inputs. You can load up to 20 still images as graphics for little bugs, titles, full screens, whatever. So you can load all these things in there and then at the push of a button, do certain things. And it's not exactly the easiest product to learn. So that's what I do is I help people learn how to use them. And then I use Stream Decks from Elgato so that I hit one button to control my ATEM instead of having hit 5 buttons on the ATEM. You know, so there's a lot of power though. The processing in the ATEM is really where the power is, but you need some help sometimes using it.
And Chris Loxamano was talking about the ATEMs too, and it records in the ATEM as well, right?
Yeah, so there's a USB
ISOs, right?
Yeah, there's a bunch of models. There's the A10 Mini Pro, the A10 Mini Pro ISO, the Extreme ISO. There's all these different models. And yeah, some of them have 2 USB ports on them. And if you get that, you can use one as your webcam and then plug a solid state drive into the other one so that, yeah, you can both record all 8 inputs simultaneously, and there's no syncing needed because they're all starting and stopping identically at the same time, as well as then use it as a webcam inside of Zoom. It's a very, very powerful tool.
Think about all the stuff, because you build and sell rigs for just people starting out, for mid-range and higher end. If you look at all the gear you use, what is the one thing that they would have to take out of your cold, dead hands before you give it up?
Probably the A10 Mini Pro. Yeah. I mean, obviously it's not much of a use without a camera, but I'll find a camera, you know, like somewhere, even the iPhone, like that Blackmagic app, you can get a clean signal out of the iPhone, plug it into the ATEM, you know, do a couple of those. I'd have a studio, you know?
Yeah. Okay. So the ATEM, what's the one thing you're like, oh man, I bought this and I wasted my money?
Oh, that's a good question. And I feel like I probably don't want to answer that one.
Okay, well, what's the one thing that you bought and then you realized that you didn't really need it, but then later on you grew into it?
That's a good one. Okay, so this is pretty obscure, but I love this piece of software. It's an online piece of software from a group called Here to Record, or H2R. They have a program called Here to Record, or H2R Gear. And I love it because I can import all my devices and make a wire diagram, and there's presets for the A10 Mini. There's presets for all these different cameras and monitors. So because some of these studios I build are extremely elaborate, and so I don't want to have to guess how many HDMI cables I'm going to need. I can wire it up ahead of time in this H2R Gear. I think it's like $5 a month, you know, and at first it was like, do I really need this? But now,
well, it's like a digital twin. You create a digital twin of what you're going to build. And
sure, yeah. I mean, it helps me map it out to know how to connect it, but also more importantly to say I need 37 HDMI cables and I need 8 Ethernet cables, and I can just see the list. It's really, really very helpful.
I bought a bunch of gear. Now I'm buying more gear. I bought the wrong thing. Is there a market for used gear?
Oh, absolutely.
Buy my teleprompter.
Yeah.
I bought a teleprompter and I don't use it.
Yeah, anybody here? Yeah, no. I think Facebook groups, Facebook Marketplace rather, as well as, I mean, the good old Craigslist, it's incredible. A lot of people are aspiring YouTubers, content creators. So whether it's a teleprompter, maybe you got the new A10 Mini Extreme, and you've got your old A10 Mini, what are you going to do with it? They hold their value. You could really there's a big market for that kind of stuff. Cameras, switches, everything. And the thing you don't want to say is, I don't use this anymore. You know, you got to have some salesmanship when you're selling your used gear. Right. This is a fantastic switcher. You got to try it out. You got to see it to believe it. You know, sell it.
So Ryan will help you sell your old gear at ryansells.com. Anything on the floor that you've seen? I know you've been locked in here, but anything that don't miss while you're here?
Adobe. This is the one booth I've been to, of course, you know, but, yeah, I've been stuck over there, but I was down at the Adobe. They invited me to their little preview yesterday of what they announced today. And if you haven't seen their generative AI for Premiere announcement, it is mind-blowing, you know, so you got to check that stuff out for sure.
All right, there we go. Ryan Grahams, thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Right over there at Studio
Upgrade. Right over here.
Go chat with him, go make a video, go make a podcast, and thank you guys.
Our swag is a little thumb drive of your recording, so come record something and take it home with you. It'll be
all right, good. Thanks, everyone.